Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Tuesday, the 27th of January. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Blair Malloy. How goes it, Blair?
Morning, Derek. Yeah, it's wet and windy and very grey skies where I am just now, but it's always a bit brighter coming on here and getting to speak to yourself and all of the viewers about Rangers, which makes the start of the day a little bit better.
Is the right answer, so well done. 10 points to you. Yeah, we'll get stuck in shortly, folks. Lots of transfer news to discuss. Exciting stuff, of course, in the final week of the transfer window. A quick word for our podcast sponsors. First of all, Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust and proud partners of the Rangers Review. They've got over 20 years of experience in the fencing trade. No job is too big or too small for these guys. They offer 10% off with the code Rangers Review over on their website, and you also get free consultations. Head over to willows-fencing.com. The all-important details are in the description below this video. Right, let's get to it then. Well, first of all, before we get to transfers, Blair, your thoughts on the weekend? A good weekend for Rangers, cutting the gap at the top, keeping that winning run going, the momentum, another clean sheet in the bag as well. Good old win. It was perhaps a bit more emphatic than what it was during the course of the game, given the two late goals, but a good Sunday all round.
Yeah, I wasn't at the game this weekend, Derek. It was one of the rare ones that I've missed so far this season. So I was following it while I was travelling back home, and I seen it was 1-0 for quite a lot of the time, and I was looking, and it was looking as though, oh, this is going to be a bit nervy, this is going to be a bit tight. Then I seen it went to 2-0, and I went, okay, game over, game's finished, happy days. And then it was only about an hour later that I went back and checked, and it was actually 3-0. So it was actually a lot more comfortable than I even realised at the time. I obviously went back and watched the full game, and it's very indicative of Danny Rowe's sides at the minute that they're just getting the job done. And I think that is what Rangers are becoming known for this season. It's 3 points, move on to the next one. And I think Danny Rowe said as much after Aberdeen, I think it was. He went 3-0, job done, 3 points, let's move on. So I think that's kind of what's going to be the model from now until the end of the season. And this is what Rangers fans have craved from a Rangers team for so long. A team that will just go out, win the game with no real frills, no real danger, and just get it done. Because how many times over the past couple of years would you have seen Rangers 1-0 up going into the final stages of a game and inevitably drop points, inevitably concede some sort of calamitous equaliser in the 90th minute that has everyone on tenterhooks again. So I think that even if it is two late goals, even if it is 2 goals near the end of the game, still managing to come away with a solid 3 points, moving on to the next one. And then obviously in Edinburgh, Hearts and Celtic drawing, I think that was probably the best result Rangers could have hoped for in my eyes. So it's put Rangers right in contention. All Rangers can do is continue to win their games, and that's what they're doing so far. As far as the game itself goes, I thought Rangers played relatively well, relatively comfortable, and that's kind of what we're asking for of them against teams in the lower reaches of the division. A goal from Danilo. I thought Danilo's celebration was a little bit interesting. I know a few people have picked it up, have been talking about it. Does it mean he's away? Does it mean it was maybe a farewell? Not really going all out in that celebration. I don't know. Not too much. Not sure how much you can pick up on that, but it was good to see him get a goal, if indeed it is a farewell goal from Rangers, and he took it well. And then also you've got Jedi Gassama, who pops up with a raker, I think is the correct term, into the far corner. And interestingly, when I was at the Ludogorets game last week, I remember I spoke with you after the game, and we spoke about the winger situation. And I said that Ludogorets game felt a little bit like an audition for left wing, and I felt like Mikey Moore had done better to step into that role. And I think Danny Rule probably seen it the same way, demoting Jedi Gassama to the bench. Gassama obviously comes on against Dundee. He scores that brilliant goal, and I think it almost cements in my mind. And this is not a slight on Jedi Gassama. This is not meant to be disrespectful, but I feel as though he's better off the bench. I feel as though he makes so much more of an impact against tired legs. I feel like when you see Jedi Gassama from the start of games, he struggles to get into it a little bit. It takes his time to warm up. I think, see if you throw Jedi Gassama into a game with 20 minutes to go, I think it causes absolute chaos. And I don't think that should be viewed negatively. I don't think it should be viewed as a slight on his ability. I just think that why not use the tool that you've got and use it to its best of its ability? Because every time he comes on in a game, he seems to cause problems. He seems to either score, he's a couple of goals disallowed. Even at the beginning of the season when he was really firing, they all came from the bench. So I think that he might be a player that we may see used a little bit differently by Danny Rule, even for the next few weeks till he maybe gets a little bit sharp again, and you might see him being more of an impact player. I don't know what you think about that, Derek.
Yeah, possibly. Let's be honest, he hasn't been scintillating lately. I think he's just a typical young winger. He goes off the boil at points, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, just coming off the bench and trying to impact games when defences are fatigued, and having a go at fullback. Like we've seen at the goal, it's his trademark finish, of course, cutting in from the left and curling a right-footed ball into the corner. So, yeah, that could be his role in the games ahead. Who knows? Certainly with Skov Olsen, that sort of occupies it at the right-hand side. I'd imagine he'd be starting on Sunday. Thursday will be interesting because, of course, with the European squad, Danny Rule is pretty hamstrung in terms of the personnel that he can select for that. So Gassama possibly starts in that game, but one to keep an eye on. Love this. This is dedication to the show. Bradley gets in touch. He says 2:30 in the morning here in Tucson. I think that's in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. I'm up for the news. Exciting times, morning trip. So good to have you tuning in, Bradley, and any other insomniacs out there as well. Good to have you tuning into the show on this Tuesday morning here in the UK. But yeah, good old weekend for Rangers. And like you said on Danilo, yeah, we discussed him yesterday on the show. It's very much looked like maybe a goodbye goal for him. And we reported the news yesterday. Chris had it on the website, and we recorded a transfer show yesterday evening, and Paphos, this came from left field, I've got to say, but the Cypriot side, who are in the Champions League no less, have lodged a bid in the region of £2 million for Danilo. So they're looking to bring the Brazilian over to their club. Now, reports in the Netherlands yesterday also suggested Danilo emerged as a target for NEC Nijmegen over in the Eredivisie. They were interested in a loan, but Rangers looking for a permanent transfer. So Paphos probably the more likely destination of the two. Got to say, I said it on the show yesterday, Blair, I think £2 million is reasonable for Danilo. Danilo, I certainly would be taking that.
Yeah, I don't think you can really expect too much more than that, to be honest. I think overall, I think we'll look at the signing of Danilo as one of a bit of a disappointment. I think he came in with a lot of expectation given the transfer fee that he commanded. I think he was one that arriving at the same time as Cyril Dessers. Dessers obviously scored many more goals, but also commanded a lot more of the flack. Took a lot more heat from the fans. Danilo always seemed to kind of escape that a little bit. Now, I do accept the fact that he had his injuries. I do accept the fact that he had that horror injury against St Johnstone that really, you don't know how that can affect someone's career. A head injury like that, you don't know how that can affect someone's confidence, how that can affect their mentality in terms of playing a contact sport. So I don't want to go all in on him and just say he's been an abject failure. But I think for the money that Rangers spent on Danilo, they would have wanted a lot more. They'd have wanted a lot more consistency, a lot more goals. He's shown it in spells. He's shown little moments that he's a good player. I obviously look back in that goal against Celtic last January. Again, some little flashes where he's looked okay. He looked relatively potent at the start of the season in a really, really poor team. But yeah, it's never been consistent enough for Danilo. He's never managed to get on the park for long enough. He's always had these injury problems, and he's never managed to really find a consistent scoring touch. He will, if he departs this window, he will have played his part in this title hunt. I was going to say title win, but it's far too early to be talking about that. But in this title hunt, he will certainly have played his part. I think about that goal against Hibs at Easter Road. That was a really, really fine finish. So I won't look back on him with too much regret. And like you said, I think if you can get £2 million, even a little bit north of that, then I think that's relatively good business for Rangers. He's been here, what, three years now, I think. And the fact that you're maybe taking £3-4 million loss on him, okay, you're probably not getting that amount back in goals and performances, but at the same time, you're getting a little bit of money back, and also you're freeing up a space in the squad for any potential new incomings, which I'm sure we're about to talk about, because that has been on everyone's lips in the past 24 hours, the idea of a new striker.
Yeah, 2.5 years. He signed, remember, Michael Beale came in, I think it was summer of 2023, if I'm not mistaken. When he arrived. But been very stop-start. So, wish him well if it is Paphos. Interestingly, he could come up against some former Ibrox teammates next month, who are at Aris, Limassol, of course, Alexa Ross McCausland, Connor Goldson, Leon Balogun over there at the moment. Of course, another ex-Ranger, Wes Foderingham, in goal for Limassol. So, certainly caught me by surprise yesterday. I certainly think it was wasn't a real surprise to see that the Dutch side interested in him, given his history over there. And NEC are actually doing pretty well in the Eredivisie, a small club, but they're up there.
I think Paphos are an interesting one because they've got a bit of a outside money coming into them, and they've been one of the surprise packages in the Champions League. They've obviously got guys in there like David Luiz. He's the big name in that side. Guys as well like Ken Sema, who viewers might remember played for Watford a couple of years ago. So they're putting a bit of money into it. So it didn't really surprise me too much when I seen that name linked. I think Danilo, he's probably got a bit of stock on the continent, because before he came to Rangers, he was fairly well thought of in the Eredivisie. So I think a couple of bad years here might not have dipped his stock too much continentally. So I'd like to go, even if it didn't work out at Rangers, I do always wish that players can go on and find their best form somewhere else. Because one thing about Danilo is, every time you spoke to him, he's always been a really, really nice guy, really, really pleasant fella. He is a really intelligent guy. He speaks 5 languages. He has been integral in bedding in a lot of players into the squad. I know that's been a role that he's taken on as a bit of a translator. And he's always approached it with the right mindset and the right mentality, even when he has been injured. So on a personal level, I wish him nothing but the best. I'm really disappointed that it hasn't worked out for him at Rangers. He hasn't been able to show what I think he probably has in him. But if he goes somewhere else and finds his best form, then all power to him.
Yeah, someone said on the show yesterday, can we keep his dad?
Yes, absolutely.
I wonder if that's part of the package, if Rangers can keep hold of him just as a cheerleader in the stands. That would be fantastic. But there you go. Right, let's move on from that. We'll stick with the outgoings at the moment. Alan Austin with the point here says, is Rothwell still here? He is for now. But it's our understanding that there's 3 clubs in discussions about potentially bringing him out of his, let's be honest, in Ibrox misery since joining in the summer. Rangers looking to get him out the door this month. So that is one. I expect him to move on this week. Blair, it will be interesting. I mentioned there about the Europa League game coming up. Given that the Hibs match is on the horizon, if Rothwell is still here, I'd be starting him on Thursday, I've got to say, but I very much expect him to move on.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Derek. I actually thought this one would have been done a lot sooner. I thought he would have been one that in the first few days of January would have been out the door, and he would have went and played football, because, I mean, he's obviously getting paid handsomely at Rangers, but he is of that age now where his years of first team football at a high level are not there's not many of them left. So you would think on a personal level he would want to go and play regularly, because it's clear he's not getting that chance at Rangers. He's not done enough to convince Danny Rule that he should be in the first team, that he should be starting. So I can see him heading back down the road to a championship side. I think that's where he's suited. I think that's where he played his best football. And I think for whatever reason, it's just not worked out for Joe Rothwell either. I think the intensity of Scottish football was maybe a little bit too much. Maybe the need to win every single game, the need to be at it every single game for every minute because players are chopping into you in that centre midfield role. I did an interview with Stephen Davis a couple of weeks ago discussing the Rangers number 6 and what it takes to stand with the broad shoulders in the centre of the park at Ibrox and really make it your own. And unfortunately for Joe Rothwell, it just hasn't worked out for him. He hasn't been able to command that team, and I really thought he would. I would hold my hands up and say that when he was signed, I looked at what he did for Leeds, I looked at what he's done down south, and I thought, okay, this guy's got a pedigree. This guy could come in and looks as though he's a level above most of the teams in the Scottish Premiership. But once again, it's just proof that we always get hit with this argument up here in Scotland, Derek, that the English Championship is miles better than Rangers and Celtic. That's what they tell us all the time. They say that there's a higher level playing down there than coming up to play in Scotland. And time again, Derek, players come up here from the English Championship and they can't hack it for whatever reason. It just doesn't work for them. And I don't know when this narrative will be quashed that it's a cakewalk coming up to Rangers and Celtic, but like I said, time and time again, players down south seem to come up here and very quickly they find out that it's not the retirement league that they maybe thought it was.
Yep, something that grates on me sometimes. You see players that are decent players, that struggle down south. They go up to Scotland and they do well, and you hear folks certainly down here saying, "Oh, it just shows you it's a farmers' league up there and it's dead easy." But I could show you a list of players probably as long as those players who have come up and struggled. So Rothwell joins that list. There are many others that have come up and just found it too tough. But Rangers keen on a permanent transfer on Joe Rothwell. So keep your eyes on that one, folks. Right. I think that's in terms of the news on outgoings. Also, Clinton Enciala, Rangers, of course, open to offers for him. No update on him, but he will be allowed to leave. So whether that is a permanent deal or a loan, who knows? I know that Motherwell were linked with him recently. I wonder where he will go. Keep your eyes peeled on the website, folks.
He's another one for me, Derek, that I think just has to play football. I think you have to get Clinton Enciala out and playing because I think everybody had a look at him when he was in the team the back end of last season, and he looked as though he definitely had something on the ball. He definitely had that ability that you could look at and go, yeah, he's showing some shaky moments, but I think he has something. But it's doing his career no good just sitting in the reserves for Rangers, sitting on the bench. He's getting the odd minutes here or there in the League Cup, but that's no career for anyone, you know. So I think that I would prefer a loan. I would prefer a loan to go and see if he can play football for 6 months. I think that a loan inside Scotland would be a wonderful move for Rangers because then you could see Clinton Enciala go and play football close by, get 6 months under his belt. I think Motherwell would be an excellent move. I don't know how likely that is to actually happen, but I think that if you sent him out somewhere where you could watch him play every week, where he doesn't get forgotten about, where he does actually get the game time, and then he comes back and competes. Like I've said for so long on this podcast, Derek, that loans for a long time seem to just be prolonging selling a player. But why not actually use the loan properly and try and go out and develop them a bit more and then bring them back a stronger player so they can come back and compete?
Yep. And you may have noticed a story emanating from France, from Foot Mercato, which is a publication over there, suggesting that AS Monaco have made a move for Jerry Gassama. Apparently, submitted a loan with an obligation to buy for the Rangers winger. So we're chasing that one up, folks. Of course, we reported earlier on in the window that Rangers looking to hold on to Jerry Gassama. And it's the player was keen to stay as well, despite interest from a number of European clubs and the MLS. So there you go. Monaco have not been keeping a close eye on them this season, Blair, but they're a famous old name in football.
Yeah. They have Mika Biereth in the ranks, formerly of Motherwell. Yeah, they have him playing for them. Also Paul Pogba as well. So it's quite.
He's still going, is he?
Yes, yeah, he's back playing for them. So it's quite the lineup over there in Monaco. I mean, I don't know what would attract you to going to Monte Carlo to play your football, to be honest. That sounds rubbish. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, Chris reported earlier in the window that Jedi Gassama was going nowhere and he wasn't leaving Rangers. But obviously, he is a player that has been attracting interest. I think that's clear. I think that people have been taking a notice of him in this window. Myself and Josh did the Saturday show analysing the wingers a few weeks ago, and we said that Gassama, I think you'd hang on to him at least, because I think that when you put better players around him, the likes of Skov Olsen, and you take a little bit of that pressure off, I think he starts to shine a little bit more. As I said, I think for me at the minute, he looks a little bit more like an impact player. I'm not saying that that's his entire role. I'm not saying that he is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer reincarnate and he will only come off the bench to play for Rangers. But for the minute, it just seems that he's starting games and he's frustrating to watch. He's frustrating himself and he's frustrating the fans.
Yeah.
I think you've seen that against Ludogorets, where he was kind of just running into blind channels a lot of the time, and he was really struggling to make things happen. So I think you have a couple of games where you start Mikey Moore on the left, you start Sigurd Olsen on the right. You wait for teams to tire out a little bit. You bring Jerry Gassama on, and I would bet that more times than not you see a tangible impact from Jedi Gassama coming off the bench, whether that's an assist, whether that's a goal. I would be willing to put my neck in the line and say that perhaps counterproductively, if you take him out the team, you will get more from him coming off the bench.
Yep, agreed. Right, let's get to potential incomings. Well, first of all, King Rex says over 1,700 on the Policy. Now it's almost at 2,000 and only 149 likes. Come on, troops! Yeah, you heard King Rick. Do as he says. Hit that like button, folks, if you're enjoying the show. And enjoyed it. Got a bit of fan mail yesterday. Kev, who's a big fan of the show, says, any more fan mail? Did chuckle yesterday when someone sent me, I'll read you what it said. The title of the email, so this caught my eye to begin with. I hope you live forever, you first-class cabbage. So that initially got my attention. And then the email was, your words and deeds would shame all the devils in hell. If you had half a brain, you would be dangerous, you ugly C-U-N-T. So there you go. That was absolutely fantastic. Pray for that. Pray for Kevin's, not Kevin who's messaged in, but Kevin who emailed me on Sunday evening it was, and pray for his...
The good thing is, Derek, Kevin has totally not overreacted at all, and he's approached this with real measure and real dignity when he's sending that message, and I'm almost certain he will not regret that after a couple of shandies.
I think he's been signed up for all sorts of mailing lists and all that, given the response that I was seeing on social media yesterday. So his team must have not had a good old result at the weekend, but I thought that was quite funny. Right, incomings. Ryan Naderi then. This came from left field yesterday. Blair, Chris had the story on the site that a bid has been submitted for Ryan Naderi, around £2.5 million. Other clubs said to be interested. The player said to be keen on a move to Ibrox to work with Danny Rule. Now, he plays for Hansa Rostock in the Bundesliga 3, so that the third tier of German football, 22 years of age, around 6'4". So a big, tall lad. Hansa Rostock said to want a replacement in before signing the deal off, and Rangers thought to have other options for a striker. Now, I think this could all be dependent on Danilo heading out the door, whether we see a guy coming in. But Ryan Naderi, what do you know about him? Are you excited at the prospect of him arriving?
So it's certainly an interesting one, and one that I think took us all by surprise. I don't think if anybody was telling you that they were tipping Ryan Naderi with a move to Rangers, I'll show you a liar, because I don't think anybody seen this one coming. It's an interesting profile because he is 6'4". He's 22 years old. He's not been massively prolific in the German third tier, but I have seen a couple of analysis pieces on him. And the people who do these sort of online scouts, amateur scouts sort of idea, they all seem pretty confident that with the underlying numbers, he's a player that can translate that to a higher level. Now, We'll start off with where he's playing. So, third division, Hansa Rostock. There is a lot of people who are saying the third division in Germany. That rings a couple of alarm bells. Now, it does to me as well. Like, I do look at that and go, I know people are saying that the third division in Germany is probably comparable to much of the SPFL, and I get that, because the SPFL, the Premiership, is definitely condensed in terms of ability and level. You've got the Champions League teams at the top end, and then you've got probably not even Conference League teams at the bottom end. So it is totally condensed in that manner. But you look at what Hearts have done, for example. You look at where they signed Kizarides. They look at where they signed Braga. Braga, of course, coming from the second division in Norway, famously. So I don't think you can look too much into where the player is playing currently. And the fact that he's also 22 suggests to me that he may just be on the cusp of another move. So this could, how many times have you seen players in their early 20s maybe playing at a little bit of a lower level, getting that move up, and they take their game with it? So as much as it did strike me as a little bit out of the blue that Rangers are shopping in that market, I wouldn't write it off completely just because of the way he's playing. In terms of the money potentially being paid, that we're talking around £2.5 million to £3 million for someone who has scored 8 goals this year, I believe it is 7 or 8. I think it's 8.
8 goals.
So far this season. It is a gamble, and I think with every signing, it's always a gamble, especially when you're trying to buy a striker. I don't think you can ever sign someone that guarantees you goals, and I think this is where the debate comes from, because you're looking up the road at Tawanda Maswanisi for £3 million, who's scored 15 goals so far in the SPFL.
Yep.
And you're saying, no thanks, we'll not have him. We're going to go for this 22-year-old German forward who we don't really know whether he can cut it in Scotland. We don't know how he's going to adapt, because let's make no bones about it, Derek, Rangers need a striker to hit the ground running. They need, when the rubber hits the road and they take to that park, they need to start firing, because it's January. There is no time to bed in. There is no time to settle in. If you take 3 months to find your feet, that's no use at this point, because the title will be gone. So I think that there is a lot of pressure on this kid that's going to come in. I think that Maswanisi has obviously been one that's been linked all over the window. So I think it's a bold move from the Rangers team to maybe pass up that opportunity to spend similar money on a striker from elsewhere. Now, he has a different profile, I'll admit. He's a big sort of target man. Funnily enough, quite similar to Majowski, quite similar to Yusuf Chermiti. Yes, he is. Kyle Lafferty, number 2. One of my good friends texted me yesterday. He's 7 foot and he plays the glockenspiel to describe Ryan Naderi. Yes, so maybe that one can catch on in the last half of this season. But as far as he goes in terms of profile, he's quite similar to Yusuf Chermiti and Bojan Majowski, which I found a little bit of a surprise. I thought if you're going to bring a striker in, you're maybe going to bring in someone a little bit nippier, maybe just a different dynamic to complement one of those bigger strikers that we have already. So it's interesting. It's a gamble. I looked at his, as I said before, I've watched his goals compilation with some terrible Europop over the top of it, as we all do when anyone is linked. Yes. Some hardcore rave music over some tap-ins, which is one of my favourite genres of things in modern football.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting one. If he comes, we'll obviously get right behind him. I hope he can take his level up, but it is going to be he has to fit in straight away, because if he doesn't, it's going to be a bit of a rough road for the next 6 months.
Yeah, Ross with the point, just talking about the stature of him. He says, if the links to Ryan Naderi, do you think Danilo is prioritising physicality in the forward areas? Danilo unfortunately lacks in that area. Feels like the manager wants a focal point. Yeah, it certainly looks that way. So yeah, I can't really pass comment until if he does sign, if that move goes through, until we see him in action. But yeah, it did catch me by surprise, and you're quite right in saying Rangers need someone to come in and bang the goals in now. So it's a bit of pressure on the young lad if he is the guy. Right, before we wrap up, shout out here, Dams gets in touch, says shout out to the Up Heli celebration celebrate the big fire festival in the Shetland Isles, celebrating the Viking heritage with a party that goes till tomorrow morning, followed by a public holiday. Absolutely fantastic. Wish I was up there myself to experience that. You ever been up to the Shetlands, Blair?
No, it's a place I've never visited before. It's somewhere that's definitely on the list of. I've travelled quite a lot of Scotland, but I've never went up quite as far as Shetland. I found myself not quite far north as that, but I was up in Arbroath of the weekend.
That windy game.
Yes, I was there.
Wow.
I was there. Yes, I was. I think I was the lone soldier in the press pack. At that game. That was we've complained about Rangers games this season. Let me tell you, it's absolutely nothing compared to what I watched on Friday night. The goalkeepers couldn't get the ball over the halfway line. Speaking to players after, they said that's quite possibly the worst game I've ever played in. It was a cold one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what though, Derek, just before we go, it's a bit early to be talking about pies, but the local delicacy up there, the steak and black pudding pie, it is absolutely,
wow.
it's everything that it's cracked up to be. It's absolutely superb. So big shout out to the wee pie hut at Arbroath. They're doing God's work by creating the steak and black pudding pie. It's absolutely fantastic.
I need to go up there and experience that. I've never been to Gayfield before, but yeah, I feel for you at that game. I watched clips, of course. The match was in the BBC, wasn't it? And the boy, I seen the goalie launching a ball out the park. It looked really treacherous stuff. Do you have any Arbroath Smokies up there when you were up there?
I didn't know. I know I missed out on that. I didn't get a chance to. But I felt like my experience was really compounded, feeling the gusts coming off the North Sea as I was trying to write my match report.
Big thank you to Andy, who's correcting me. This is why we love the interaction with you guys. He says it's not the Shetlands, it's the Shetland Isles. So apologies for that, Andy. There you go. I think we need to go up there sometime and record the show. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Right, just a heads up what is to come this afternoon, folks. If you're a Rangers Review Extra member on YouTube, we'll record our Q&A this afternoon, usual time at 1 p.m. So I'll pop the request out on the community page a little later on. Get your questions in and we'll get through as many as we possibly can. If you want to join and become a Rangers Review Extra member, just hit the join button on the homepage on YouTube and you can sign up. And remember, on the website, we've still got that great offer on at the moment at £4 for 4 months. So yeah, head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. Right, thank you to you all for tuning into the show as ever. And thank you to Blair for joining us. Joshua is heading out to Porto today, so hopefully we'll bring you some content from the north of Portugal ahead of the Europa League game on Thursday. Before you go, Blair, think Rangers can get a result there?
Yes. Cautiously optimistic. Yeah. I will say, by the way, for anyone heading out there, I don't know if there's any Rangers fans in the chat that are going. Porto is one of my favourite cities to go to. It's a beautiful place. It's an incredible stadium. They have the food, the drinks, the transport, the views, everything about it. I really like. You can recommend going to the bridge, taking that in because it's a wonderfully scenic bridge. Getting up to the stadium, you get fabulous views out over the city. You get some lovely Vino Verde and Superboc on draft, absolutely everywhere, which is always a good time. So yeah, I think it's a great trip for anybody that's making their way out. Whether the Rangers can actually get a result or not, yeah, I'd be cautiously optimistic. Superboc City, indeed, yes. I think that Danilo, as I said before, I've made this point that Rangers' momentum is so key for Rangers right now. It's Danilo's 12th man, the momentum that this team has, and I think that if you break that by putting out a weekend team, then I think it could really come back to bite you in the long term. So I think he'll still try and keep these players in this rhythm. I think he'll still try and keep these players ticking over and play a relatively strong team because confidence is everything for these guys. And if they go and get a decent result in Porto, excuse me, they won't get a decent result in Porto and then come back to league action. The players are brimming with confidence. I don't think there doesn't look a lot of tiredness in there yet. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. This is obviously the last European game. So they can just focus on league action from now till the end of the season, obviously Scottish Cup as well. But for the most part, it'll just be weekend games So I wouldn't be too worried about resting players that much at this stage. I think it's more important that you keep the confidence up, you keep players, like I said, with that momentum and keep them in the habit of getting positive results.
Yep, it's going to be tricky. Porto still get a chance of getting into the top 8, so they'll be going all out to win this game. Should make for an entertaining contest, that's for sure, but a tough task for Rangers. Just harping back to pies and the food at the football, Asbo gets in touch. He says, missing a trick, Camlin Juniors does a steak in Buckfast pie. Wow, now that is taking the threshold to all new levels there. That is
not sure what I think about that, by the way. I don't know.
And Mark with the point says the Forfar Bridie is unbeatable. I'll bear that in mind.
I'll agree with you there, Mark. I've actually also sampled a Forfar Bridie this season as part of my apparently food tour of Britain going on. Forfar Bridie is fantastic, I must say. Oh, before we go, I know this has turned into a cooking show all of a sudden, but the best food I've had at a football game so far this year. Big shout out to Stenhouse Muir. And the woman running the catering at Stenhouse Muir, who provided homemade stovies when I turned up there.
Tremendous.
Which was absolutely fantastic. Turned up and I went, surely not. £3 for a nice big cup of homemade stovies. Set you up right for the day on a cold afternoon. It was absolutely fantastic. Packing with flavour. Better than anything you get at top flight ground. Unbelievable.
Oh, that is fantastic. Food, I mean, I get a lot of press food down here, down south. The best, by far the best I've ever had. I went down to Cambridge on a Tuesday night. Bolton were playing down there, and it was steak and frites night. And they had just a little van where a guy was, no word of a lie, cooking steak, chopped it up, and you had the little is it chimichurri sauce on it, a little bit of that, and chips. It was utterly incredible. To think you have that at football. I didn't really care much for what was happening on the pitch. I was just tucking into that, but it was sensational stuff. So, fair play to Cambridge.
Might be the most Cambridge thing I've ever heard in my life. A steak as whether you're watching the football, yes.
But there you go. Right. Peter says, gets in touch, says, great hospitality today at Stenny, just next to me. So there you go. Oakle View, isn't it? That's where they play their games, isn't it? So, good stuff. And George gets in touch. We'll wrap up now. He says, steak Friday at East End Park. So, and King Rex says, McGee's Scotch pie at Capello. I'm sure you've had a Scotch pie at Capello, Blair.
Yes. Pies are pretty good down in Capello, must say. I think if you're just coming at me with a regular pie, I'm starting to experience the different varieties of life. I like something a little bit more interesting now, and I'm out about in my travels.
We really need to get you to do a sort of food tour on the website or on the YouTube channel. I think that would do numbers, as they say. But there you go. We'll wrap up there for now. Big thank you to Blair and for you all to your support to the channel, first of all, and tuning in on this Tuesday morning. Enjoy your day, folks. If we don't speak to you later on, bye for now.